President Biden recently commuted the 40-year sentence of Josephine Virginia Gray, also known as the Black Widow. She was convicted of insurance fraud linked to the murders of 2 husbands and a boyfriend, going all the way back to 1974.
Now new at 5, police say we're all safe.
You wouldn't know what to do if you had a wife that was playing with voodoo, playing with the dark arts. You wouldn't know how to handle a woman dealing with that boy, putting that hoodoo on you. Miss Josephine Gray, confusing the judges, the judicial system, playing with that beef tongue spell. She was playing with all type of spells, intimidating witnesses. They couldn't do nothing with this lady.
Josephine Gray is the first one to have used voodoo as a way to scare the people around her to keep quiet. She was able to murder her partners for about 20 years.
She was using her voodoo powers to confuse witnesses, investigators. I'm talking about she had the whole town on spook. Now, this is the story of Josephine Gray. Now, this gonna get real dark right quick. Now, Josephine Gray was born in 1946, and there isn't too much information about her early life out there. Now, they say she had a rough childhood and she was very active in the church. Basically, she grew up holistic, religious, Christian. Now, Miss Josephine Gray was a flashy individual. She loved flashy clothes, flashy cars, flashy jewelry. She would show off everything. But Miss Josephine Gray worked at a public school called Montgomery Public School, and she was a custodian over there. So a lot of people was wondering where she would get all her money from. Like, how you got the money to afford to pull up in these fancy cars and watch and rock all this fancy clothes, wearing all this fancy jewelry? Shorty was shining. In 1967, Miss Josephine Gray married a man named Norman. They had 5 beautiful children, but the marriage was toxic and crazy. Now, it said that they had an absolutely crazy, horrible marriage. And the marriage was so bad that Miss Gray had to take on a part-time job doing some other janitorial work. Now, when she took up the other job, this is where she met her other husband. I know, even though she married, but she met her other husband, William Gray. Now, William Gray's name is Robert, so we're gonna call him Robert throughout the whole story. Now, Robert Gray was married with 6 children already. Even though they both married, it didn't stop them from having an unfair with each other. Yeah, it's about to go there. So Robert's wife, Miss Francis, she wasn't feeling this. So she started doing some investigating, trying to figure out why would her husband all of a sudden turn from this good man to this dark man. His demeanor started to change. His whole character and spiritual aura started to change. He was a friendly man, and all of a sudden he just started to be this dark, evil man that didn't want to be bothered with his wife no more. So he went from happy and go lucky to impatient, very snappy, bad attitude. Now, Miss Francis started doing a little bit more digging, trying to figure out why Robert demeanor started to change. Miss Francis basically felt like somebody was doing something to his food, or felt like somebody was controlling him with something. So Miss Francis was like, yeah, he gotta be under some spell because he only act like this when he eat her food. So she instructed him basically, whatever you got going on with the other lady, I don't care what you got going on, just don't eat her food. Now, once he stopped eating the food, basically the spell will wear off. So it's like the family man and the good man that she once married would come back. It's crazy. But now once he started eating the food again, that spell would come back. And that puppet and him being controlled by Josephine, that energy would come right back, you heard me? Now when you go to Miss Josephine's bedroom, you would see nothing but incantations, spells, herbs, powders, nothing but type of different voodoo dolls, all your concoctions everywhere. Now Norman, who is Josephine's first husband, who she's still with, he saw all this in the room, but he was so afraid and scared of her, he didn't want to say nothing. Dude was willing to get cheated on and everything, just because he was that afraid, you heard me? Boy, it was spooky for real. Man, you know how spooky you gotta be to know that your wife cheating on you and you still not do nothing? So Harmon really genuinely feared for his life, so that's why he never was addressing the issue. And on top of that, he had tangible evidence with his name on voodoo dolls and all type of stuff laying across the room. Man, the lady had spells with his name on it, candles lit, his name on voodoo dolls. Boy, she was on his ass. Now, I ain't gonna lie, Harmon was right, because one night, he woke up to see his wife pointing a gun at his head. Now, Josephine, she fired the gun at him, but it misfired. So his life was spared this time. But his life wasn't spared for too long because on March 4th, 1974, so Norman was found in the back of his car with a bullet wound shot to his head in Gettysburg, Maryland.
On March 3rd, 1974, Norman Stribling was found dead. He had been shot by a single bullet to the right side of his head. The prime suspect was his wife, Josephine Gray.
During the investigation to figure out what had happened to Norman, they had a couple witnesses that approached the officers to let them know what type of information he had. And these two people said that they was offered $5,000 to kill Norman. But 2 weeks later, not only was Josephine arrested for the murder of Norman, but Robert was arrested as well. But later on, the charges was dropped because for some reason, the witnesses that was cooperating, that wanted to help in the beginning, all of a sudden couldn't be found and didn't want to have nothing to do with the case no more. Lady was playing with that beef child.
You guys ever deal with people who like to talk shit and their gossip, and any other time it wouldn't bother you, but if it's affecting your money, like on a job or a court case, etc., then you might need to pull out all the stops. And what I have here, I'm going to get in a little closer, is a black tapered candle. On the side of the candle, I carved in the people's names who are the targets, the one who are perpetuating the gossip, the lies, and the slander. Here you see is a beef tongue.
So it wasn't enough evidence to convict Josephine and Robert, so the police had to release them. So the prosecution couldn't form a case due to the lack of evidence and the lack of witnesses. Yeah, shorty on that voodoo shit for real. Now the police say that they do feel as though it's a form of intimidation that played a part in it, because his family at one point that wanted to testify didn't even want to say nothing no more. Now the family are already afraid of the lady because they feel like Norma was already under spell, acting differently and everything before he died. So they looking at her as a voodoo witch already. Now Norma ain't no longer with us, but his insurance policy was paid out to Josephine Gray. Yeah, she had a insurance policy on that boy. You gotta peep the plot. Now the insurance life policy was paid out to Josephine for $15,000. Now I know $15,000 don't sound like a lot in today's time, but do you know how much money that is in those times? $190,000 to about $180,000. Yeah. Now Josephine got the money, and the lady used the money to buy a new house with her new husband Robert. Shorty was vicious, bro. So in November 1975, about a couple years after Norman's death, Robert and Josephine got married and they had a kid together. Now, just like her marriage before, the family of Robert would describe this marriage as toxic, unhealthy, crazy, witchery, like on some dark magic type shit. But, you know, homie didn't care, so they continue on with the relationship. But peep this. Josephine got a cousin that's out there in New York. The family need her to watch the cousin, right? But the cousin was a teenager too. So not only is that her cousin and he a teenager, peep this. So Josephine take on a cousin so she could basically give him a new life, some discipline, basically help him, right? So she takes in on the cousin, but guess what? Later on, the lady started having an affair with her cousin, Clarence Good. How you having an affair with your cousin Clarence Good? Man, this lady was wildin', bro. So in 1990, Josephine started chasing her husband Robert around the house with a gun. The man was so spooked out and fearing for his life, homie jumped off the second floor and ran down there to his parents' house. Now, Josephine ain't tripping. She like, I don't even care, he be back. So she ain't even worried that he done left. You know, she ain't even tripping. She go back dealing with her cousin, Clarence. This is crazy. You having a whole affair with your cousin. That's some real southern shit. Not only was she fucking her cousin Clarence, she even started a whole nother relationship with another co-worker. Well, this lady was a black widow for real. Now, Robert at his house telling his family on what happened, about how she trying to kill him and everything. So he goes to the police and puts in a police report. So he tells the police and his family that she even tried coming to his job and attacking him with a baseball bat and a knife. Boy, this lady was trying to kill him. So he pressed charges and the hearing was scheduled for October 5th. But the hearing wound up getting pushed back, which gave Josephine enough time to put in her whole spell work, you heard me? So now with the hearing being scheduled for November 16th, Josephine ready to go to work, baby. Now one day Josephine started following him, right? She was following him so close that she was driving parallel to his car. Now the dude Clarence that's in the passenger seat, which is her cousin, who she also having an affair with, He takes the shotgun out and pointed at homie, and homie stops the car, hit a reverse to get away from Josephine on the road. Man, this shit sound like a fire movie, huh? Man, I know that boy Robert, like, man, I don't know what's going on with these people, but these people is trying to kill me, you heard me? It'll caught you on a road, on a highway. Man, imagine having to hit a whole reverse on a highway on some Fast and the Furious shit to get away from some crazy ass couple who is supposed to be your wife, who was having sex with her cousin. So Robert on the highway dodging bullets, so he already know the drill. He head back to the police. So not only did he report this to the police, he called his insurance to change the policy so she don't get the money just in case something happened to him. So homie was thinking, he knew it was coming. So Robert then reported the incident. He thinking everything good. So he back with his family, his kids. He chilling, relaxing in the meantime, right? In the meantime. So the family celebrating, they thinking they got their pops back. But so about a week later, basically a week right before the hearing, November 9th, 1990, Robert was getting off work as a service manager at an elementary school. Now he went home when he went to his apartment, but homie didn't know that they already had somebody waiting in there for him. So 2 shots was fired and it hit Robert in his neck and his chest. And his body was later found by his father, who didn't even know that his son was dead because he just came and pulled up on him because he wasn't answering the phone and nobody heard from him. So he just pulled up on him, walking in the apartment just to see his son laid out on the floor dead, you hear me? Now next to his body, they had a police detective card, basically who had been asking for Robert. So I don't know if Robert was talking to the police officer and he was basically working with Robert personally, but the call was next to him. Now Robert is no longer a witness, but we still not even done with Norman. Now let's get back to your boy Norman, you heard me? Because we still don't even know supposedly who killed Norman, even though we know. So over a 6-month investigation, Josephine and Norman was charged with the murder of Robert because one of the leads was one of Norman's kids, basically, who went to the police and told them that they felt as though Josephine had something to do with his father getting killed. Basically, they heard her talking about killing their stepfather and everything, you heard me? Even Miss Josephine's daughter and her brother also made statements. So all of this brought it to the conclusion that Josephine had something to do with Robert's murder. Now, Josephine was arrested, but later on, once again, she was released on bail. Now, while Josephine was in jail, everybody was agreeing that she had something to do with the murders. But once she was released, everybody started to recant their statements, which made the investigation weird and hard for them to basically catch her, because everybody keep recanting their statements. What y'all so afraid of the lady for? So this the second time where you got a bunch of witnesses who basically afraid to testify against Josephine. I don't know if the lady got some voodoo powder at her door. I don't know what she got going on. Maybe she got the hair or something tied up in some voodoo dolls and just know what to do every time she get out, to just go ahead and go right to those dolls and then keep them people quiet, you heard me? So everybody basically wondering why is it that the lady keep on having everybody afraid of her. So they wound up asking her straight up, do she practice witchcraft? And this what the lady said. She said, I do not practice no voodoo. I do not practice no witchcraft. Just because I go buy Lucky Charms and try to play the lottery, or something to buy herbs or drink herb tea, or take olive oil and anoint myself, they do that in the Bible. So basically you got an investigation trying to get a trial together, but all the witnesses is afraid and intimidated. So Josephine using that beef tongue spell, I'm telling you, she using that to do the criminal court cases, you heard me? That beef tongue spell, you will see that in a lot of different movies. I put a little in here so you can see what's down with it. So she getting away with murder and she getting financial gain from these insurance policies. Now, September 4th, 1991, a judge decided to add in some different type of evidence because they felt as though, well, we can't get her with the murders. So let's see if we could get her with something else, the insurance policies. So basically they tapped her phone and they introduced this phone call that she had with this voodoo lady named Rosie Sims. Now, Rosie Sims went to the police and notified them that she had a conversation with Josephine Gray. And basically she asked her if she could kill her husband for her. So basically this about be the third or the fourth person that she did ask if she can go kill somebody for her. Yeah, I don't really know why she going around trying to get everybody to do our dirty work. I mean, I don't know. Maybe that was a blind or a smoke screen. You hear me? Just so, you know. Now here we go again. When it's time for Rosie Sims to testify against Miss Josephine Gray, all of a sudden she can't be found again. Why is all these people so afraid to show up to court to be, yeah, man, I'm telling you, she was like the devil. So on October 1st, 1991, the charges that was against Josephine Gray for the murder of her husband was dropped again, and she walks free again. Now remember, we still don't know who killed Norman. And Norman was killed in 1974. We all the way in 1990, 1991 at this point. So they still ain't catch up for the whole thing of Norman. So not only was the charges dropped against Rob, but the charges was dropped against Norman. Because once again, key witnesses refusing to testify. Now Josephine still received a payout for over $50,000 from his insurance policy. Even though he called to try to make her not the beneficiary, for some reason, the fine print was messed up and she still received the payout. And she used that money to pay off the home that she had got with Norman insurance policy. So now here we go. Josephine and Clarence, the two cousins, is together, basically about to live some Bonnie and Clyde life. Now, here come Clarence's turn. Clarence is becoming depressed, sad, isolated. He couldn't do nothing inside the home. He didn't have no access to no phones. He couldn't have access to watching TV. Basically, homie was like a prisoner in there. She making them basically sex toy slaves or something. I don't know. Homie wasn't allowed to have a house key or a car key. Damn, like what you was around there doing? Just looking at the ceiling, like damn. So in 1996, Josephine Gray threatened Clarence with a knife, telling him she about to kill him, you heard me? Now Clarence got away, and when he got away, he was able to go move in with another relative. I wonder if he told him exactly what he was doing with that relative he was with, Lanash Stairs. Now Clarence get to Baltimore, and he started to mature and gain some independence. He got him a job, started to save up some money, got him a car and a nice little apartment, you heard me? Now, not only did he get away, but you gotta remember, you signed her as a beneficiary on your insurance policy. I don't know why y'all news just keep signing her on y'all insurance policies. Like, and homie, you was right there next to her, trying to kill the other niggas. So I don't even know why you didn't even think to go not put her name on the insurance policy. Now his insurance policy is only active for another 60 days. So on June 21st, this is when the madness start to happen. So on June 21st, 1996, Baltimore police found Clarence dead. And they found him in the back of his car with bullet wounds in his chest, and his back, and his neck, you heard me? And not only did he was found shot with the bullet wounds in his chest and his back, but he also had the cocaine planted on him, like she was trying to basically do another drug deal or make it look like it was a drug deal, you heard me? Now before he died, he told his sister that he was feeling scared and that he was fearing for his life. And he started to get paranoid. So he decided to think that if I go visit Josephine, maybe it'll clear it up. But before he could do that, obviously it was too late and he was killed. It's crazy. Now the police and investigators feel as though that they know it's her. We just gotta find real solid evidence so we could really pinpoint it that it's her. So they go search her home and everything, you heard me? They find 9mm bullets, which is the same bullets that matches the gun that Clarence was shot with. They found blood stains in the garage, which also matches the same blood that Clarence had. But with all that, it still wasn't enough evidence to charge Josephine Gray to be able to charge her with murder of Clarence. Now once again, before the insurance policy ran out, Josephine Gray received another payout for $100,000. She was up at least $1 million at this point. And this was from Clarence's insurance policy. 3 insurance policies she done paid off so far. So the prosecutor started to basically get frustrated, and they seen the pattern, the insurance policy pattern. And in the meantime, Josephine, she living, doing what she do. On to the next victim, Andre. Now Andre goes into this whole relationship new. He ain't got no clue about what happened to the men before her. So basically he naive and ignorant to the fact that this lady could be doing voodoo or doing any type of crazy mess or doing any type of murders or anything, you heard me? And Josephine did the same thing that she did to Clarence and everybody else on homie. Didn't give him a key, didn't give him no car key, not a house key, didn't want him watching TV at certain times, kept him as a prisoner. The neighbors even would report that they used to see Andre being locked outside the house, banging on the door trying to get inside, while she in there. So the investigators see that she started dating Andre. So they approached Andre and like, let's start having a talk with Andre to see if we could get him to say anything about Josephine. So on November 7, 2001, a federal jury indicted Josephine Gray with 8 counts of mail and wire fraud, from collecting all the money from the insurance policies, and that she had intentionally caused the debt to reap the benefits. So I don't know what Andre did or what they did to him, but they was able to get her with the insurance fraud. Now the policies is covered by a Slayer's rule, which prevents any person in Maryland who intentionally kills the insured to receive the money. And under this law, it didn't require Josephine to be found guilty to gain a conviction. I ain't gonna lie, that was fire, you heard me? So the prosecutors only had to prove that she played a role in the death. They didn't have to prove that she actually murdered him. Due to her history with all the threatening witnesses, they already knew it was them. So they arrested her without bail at Prince George's County's detention center. But that still didn't stop the lady, because while she was in jail, she called Andre and told Andre, boy, you better not say nothing, or I'm gonna be on your ass, you heard me? So in July 2002, Josephine Gray pleads not guilty. Now remember, the first murder she did was in 1974, and she just not getting on trial for that bitch, you heard me? And this whole time, basically, they ain't have no substantial evidence all the way until where we at now, 2002. So the prosecutors referred to her as a master manipulator who used each lover to kill the predecessor, the Black Widow. Now Joe McDonald, one of the police protectors in Montgomery, got a court order to bug the houses. So they got the recorders, they placed one in the bedroom, then they placed one in the kitchen, you heard me? Now one of the recordings includes an incantation of a voodoo ritual that she was doing on a detective, you heard me? And they hear basically Josephine and her daughter Regina putting spells on Clarence, a couple witnesses, and a couple detectives, you heard me? And Joe McDonald, basically one of the police investigators, he heard his name and his partner name being used as one of the rituals. Now, one of the witnesses that testified was a lady named Wilma, and she is the only lady throughout this whole thing that was bold enough to come to the front and testify against her. And with her testimony, that's basically what put Josephine Gray away permanently. Now, her and the lady met at a beach and they was chopping it up and conversating. So Josephine felt comfortable enough to share a newsletter about what was going on with her and the murders, and letting her know that basically she was the one that was behind everything. So basically she doing all this bragging on it to her friend Wilma. So Wilma was listening to her and was scared too. So she kind of hesitated before she went to the police to let her know about it. So she goes to the police and reported it. And from there she testifies at the trial. So basically Josephine was sitting there in shock while she was testifying. Like, damn, I can't believe out of all people, it was this lady that was gonna rat on me, you heard me? And not only that, Andre also testified. So they described him as being manipulated and basically being controlled by Josephine. So Josephine's defense basically pulls out, how can a mother of 6, somebody basically that's a Christian loving woman, do this to all these different men? Yeah, they was fighting for her. They weren't gonna let her just go down now. So she went down swinging now. And they was also saying that she's not the threat. She's basically the victim in all this shit that's happening, I guess. So after a 3-week trial, Josephine was found guilty on all counts, and she was given the maximum sentence for her crimes, which was 40 years for her sentence. And they said she showed no emotion when her sentence was read.